Hey there. Tonight, let us move slowly together, as if we are walking along a quiet river under a wide and patient sky. There is no rush here, no sharp sound, no need to remember anything at all. Just listen, breathe, and allow your thoughts to soften as the world grows gentle and still. This is a story that does not shout, it does not hurry. It has been waiting for a very long time, resting beneath warm sand and open stars, ready to be remembered in a calm and peaceful way. Long ago, before cities filled the earth and before written words traveled far, there was a land shaped by water and light. A narrow green ribbon flowed through golden emptiness, carrying life where life was rare. This river moved slowly, faithfully, returning again and again, as if it understood the needs of the people who lived beside it. The land we now call ancient Egypt was born from this quiet rhythm. It was not built in a single moment. It grew gently, season by season, as people learned to listen to the river and trust its steady return. In the beginning, life here was simple and close to the earth. Families gathered near the water, planting seeds in dark, rich soil left behind when the river rested again. The air was warm, the sky wide, and the nights were filled with stars that seemed to watch in silence. People learned when to plant and when to wait. They learned that the river was not just water, but a gift, a guide, and a promise. Over time, small villages formed, connected by paths and shared memory, bound together by the slow pulse of the river's flow. As generations passed, these people began to see patterns in the world around them. They noticed how the sun rose each day, how it crossed the sky, and how it rested again beyond the horizon. They saw the moon change its shape and return once more. These movements felt meaningful, steady, and safe. From this gentle attention grew belief. The world, they felt, was alive with quiet forces. The river, the sun, the sky, and the land itself held spirit and purpose. Life was not random. It followed a calm and sacred order. With time, these shared beliefs shaped how people lived together. Leaders emerged, not through sudden power, but through trust and tradition. These leaders helped settle disputes, guided planting seasons, and led ceremonies that honored the unseen forces of the world. Slowly, the idea took root that the land itself needed balance, and that balance had to be protected. This balance was not loud or harsh. It was gentle, like the steady beat of a heart, and it became the center of Egyptian life. As villages grew into towns and towns leaned toward becoming cities, the people of this land began to build with care and meaning. Homes were made from earth and reeds, shaped by hand and sun. Temples rose near the river, not towering at first, but humble and open, places where people could speak softly to their gods. Art began to appear on walls and pottery, showing daily life, animals, and simple stories. These images were calm, ordered, and clear, reflecting how the people wished the world to be. Over many lifetimes, leadership became more defined. The ruler was no longer just a guide, but a living symbol of balance itself. This ruler would later be known as the Pharaoh, though the word came much later. At first, the role was deeply tied to duty rather than glory. The ruler was expected to care for the land, protect the people, and honor the gods. Their power was believed to come not from force, but from harmony with the natural and divine order of the world. As belief deepened, so did the connection between life and what came after it. Death was not seen as an end, but a quiet doorway. Just as the sun rested and returned, so too would the soul continue its journey. This belief softened fear and gave meaning to life's struggles. People prepared for the next world with the same care they gave to this one. They spoke prayers, placed offerings, and treated the body with respect, believing it was still needed beyond the visible world. The river continued to flow, unchanged by human hopes or fears, yet everything else slowly transformed. Writing began as simple marks used to count goods and record events. Over time, these marks grew into a rich system of symbols, each one carrying sound and meaning. Writing allowed memory to stretch beyond a single lifetime. Stories, prayers, and laws could now travel forward, steady and unbroken, like the river itself. With writing came organization, and with organization came ambition. The people of Egypt began to dream not just of survival, but of permanence. They wanted to leave something behind that would last, something as stable as the land and sky they trusted. Stone replaced earth in important buildings. Structures grew larger, carefully planned and aligned with the movements of the sun and stars. These early monuments were not yet the Great Pyramids, but they carried the same quiet intention: to endure, to honor, and to remember. As centuries passed, Egypt became a unified land, stretched along the river's path. This unity brought strength and confidence. Trade moved up and down the waterway, carrying goods, ideas, and stories. Crafts became refined. Jewelry shimmered softly in gold and stone. Music drifted through homes during festivals and evenings. Life was not always easy, but it was deeply connected, guided by tradition and shared belief. The pharaoh now stood at the center of this world, both human and divine in the eyes of the people. He was seen as the bridge between earth and sky, responsible for keeping harmony alive. His image appeared in carvings and statues, calm and composed, never hurried, never wild. Even in art, emotion was balanced and controlled. The goal was not to capture a moment, but to express eternal order. This desire for eternity shaped everything Egypt created. Tombs were built with care, filled with objects meant to serve the soul beyond death. Walls were painted with scenes of daily life, not to celebrate the past, but to ensure it continued forever. Words were spoken and written to protect the journey of the soul, guiding it gently through unseen paths. Yet beneath this calm surface, change was always present. Dynasties rose and faded. Some rulers were wise and kind, others distant or flawed. Periods of peace were followed by times of uncertainty. Floods sometimes failed to arrive, bringing hunger and fear. Outside lands watched Egypt's wealth and stability with interest. Still, through every shift, the core belief in balance remained. Even during hardship, people trusted that order would return. As night falls on this first part of our journey, imagine the river once more, glowing softly under moonlight. Imagine the quiet villages, the slow breath of the land, and the steady faith of people who believed that life, death, and time itself were part of one long, gentle cycle. Ancient Egypt did not rush into greatness. It drifted there, carried by water, belief, and patience. As the river continues its unbroken journey, so too does our story, moving gently forward without effort or strain. Time in ancient Egypt did not feel sharp or hurried. It flowed in wide, quiet circles, returning again and again to familiar places. The people who lived along the Nile felt this deeply. They did not chase the future, they welcomed it when it arrived, trusting that what was meant to come would do so in its own calm way. With unity now settled across the land, Egypt entered a long, steady season of growth. The river's floods arrived with comforting reliability, spreading dark soil across the fields like a soft blanket. Crops grew tall and full. Granaries filled. When food was plentiful, life felt balanced, and when balance held, people felt close to the gods. This sense of quiet gratitude shaped daily life. Work was done with care, rest was honored. Festivals followed the rhythm of nature rather than the demands of power. Villages expanded into organized towns, and towns slowly became centers of craft, trade, and learning. Streets were simple and open, lined with homes made of sun-dried brick that held the day's warmth into the cool of evening. Inside, families gathered close, sharing food, stories, and silence. Children learned by watching, copying the movements of their elders as they baked bread, wove cloth, or shaped clay. Knowledge was not rushed, it was absorbed slowly, like water into soil. At the heart of this growing world stood the idea of Maat, though it was not spoken loudly or forced upon anyone. It was understood quietly, like an unspoken agreement between people and the universe. Maat meant balance, truth, and harmony. It meant that everything had a place and a proper way of being. When people acted with fairness and care, Maat was strong. When greed or disorder appeared, Maat weakened and suffering followed. This belief guided decisions large and small, from how fields were shared to how justice was given. The pharaoh was seen as the living keeper of this balance. His role was not simply to rule, but to serve the order of the world itself. When he walked among the people, he did so with calm dignity, aware that his actions reflected the state of the land. In temples, priests performed daily rituals to support this balance, offering prayers, food, and incense to the gods. These rituals were quiet and precise, repeated each day without change, because repetition itself was comforting and powerful. As belief deepened, so did the desire to prepare for eternity. The afterlife was not imagined as a distant dream, but as a continuation of daily existence in a perfected form. To ensure this peaceful continuation, the body needed care and the soul needed guidance. This understanding led to the careful development of burial practices. At first, graves were simple, shaped by the desert's dry sand, which naturally preserved the body. Over time, as beliefs grew more detailed, these practices became more intentional and refined. The process of preserving the body became a sacred art. It was done slowly, respectfully, and with great focus. Every step was meant to protect the soul's journey. Words were spoken softly, hands moved gently, and nothing was rushed. This careful attention reflected a deep respect for life, even beyond death. Tombs became places of peace rather than fear, designed as homes for the soul's long rest and renewal. As rulers grew more confident in their role and legacy, they sought ways to ensure their memory would last as long as the land itself. Stone, strong and patient, became the chosen material for this purpose. Early royal tombs, known today as mastabas, rose from the ground in simple, solid shapes. They were not meant to impress with height, but to endure. Their walls were smooth and steady, their interiors quiet and purposeful. From these early forms came a bold yet careful idea. What if the tomb could rise higher, step by step, reaching closer to the sky where the sun traveled each day? This idea took shape under a ruler whose reign was marked by creativity and vision. The structure that emerged was unlike anything seen before. Layered and balanced, it stood as both a tomb and a symbol, linking earth and sky and stone. It did not shout its presence, it simply stood, calm and unmovable. This structure, the first pyramid, changed how people understood what was possible. It showed that human effort, when guided by belief and patience, could create something that felt timeless. Builders worked not with force, but with rhythm. Stones were moved slowly, carefully placed, aligned with care and purpose. There was no rush to finish. The work itself was part of the sacred act. As pyramid building continued, techniques improved, and confidence grew. The smooth-sided pyramids that followed were not built as displays of power alone, but as acts of faith. Each stone carried meaning, each angle followed cosmic order. The pyramids were not empty monuments, they were deeply personal spaces, filled with prayers, offerings, and symbols meant to guide the soul's journey through the afterlife and back into the cycle of existence. Life beyond the pyramids remained gentle and grounded. Farmers returned to their fields. Craftsmen shaped tools and ornaments. Scribes sat quietly, recording events with careful strokes, preserving moments that would otherwise fade. Writing became more expressive, capturing prayers, wisdom, and stories meant to guide future generations. Education was calm and disciplined, focused on memory, patience, and respect for tradition. Trade expanded Egypt's world without disrupting its inner balance. Boats carried goods along the Nile and beyond, bringing wood, stone, and precious materials from distant lands. In return, Egypt offered grain, linen, and crafted objects. These exchanges were steady and respectful, adding to Egypt's strength without overwhelming its sense of self. Foreign ideas were absorbed slowly, adapted rather than adopted outright. Through all of this, the land remained the quiet center of life. The desert, wide and still, protected Egypt from sudden change. It held tombs and temples in its dry embrace, preserving them long after voices fell silent. The contrast between fertile riverbanks and endless sand reminded people of life's fragility and its resilience. As this chapter of our journey settles, imagine the pyramids under a pale dawn sky, their shadows long and soft across the sand. Imagine workers pausing in their labor, breathing in the cool morning air, feeling pride not in conquest but in creation. Ancient Egypt was not built in moments of noise or haste. It was shaped through patience, belief, and a deep trust in time. The world of ancient Egypt continues to unfold like a long, quiet breath, steady and unbroken. With the great pyramids now resting on the edge of the desert, their stone faces catching the soft light of each passing day, Egypt entered a time of deep confidence. The land felt settled, protected by tradition, and guided by beliefs that had grown strong through many generations. People woke each morning knowing their place in the world, and this knowing brought a gentle peace to daily life. The gods were everywhere, yet never overwhelming. They lived in the movement of the sun, the rise of the river, and the stillness of the night sky. Each god held a clear role, and together they formed a balanced family that reflected the order people saw in nature. There was no fear in this belief, only respect and quiet trust. When prayers were spoken, they were offered softly, not as demands, but as conversations filled with gratitude and hope. Temples became the heart of spiritual life. These were not places of loud gathering, but spaces of calm order. Their walls were thick and cool, protecting those inside from the heat and noise of the outside world. Columns rose like stone reeds, carved with symbols and stories that unfolded slowly as one walked past them. Every image had a purpose, every word was placed with care. Inside the temple, time seemed to slow, allowing the mind to rest and focus. Priests moved through these spaces with practiced ease. Their lives were shaped by routine and devotion. Each day followed the same gentle pattern, from purification in the morning to evening prayers as the sun began to fade. Through repetition, their actions became steady and calm, reflecting the eternal nature of the gods they served. They did not seek attention or praise. Their role was to maintain harmony, and in doing so, they found quiet fulfillment. Beyond the temples, life continued in simple and meaningful ways. Farmers rose with the sun, working fields that had fed their families for generations. The soil felt familiar beneath their hands. The seasons guided their efforts, telling them when to plant and when to wait. There was comfort in this predictability. Even when the river's flood was lower or higher than expected, people adjusted with patience rather than fear. Families formed the core of Egyptian society. Homes were modest but warm, filled with shared meals and soft conversation. Parents taught children through example, passing down skills, stories, and values without written rules. Respect for elders was natural, rooted in the understanding that wisdom grew with time. Life was not measured by speed or change, but by continuity. As the kingdom matured, rulers began to express their devotion through greater works of stone. Temples expanded, their walls covered with carved prayers and offerings to the gods. These buildings were designed not only to honor the divine, but to last beyond memory. Builders worked with focus and care, shaping stone as if they were shaping time itself. Each block was placed with intention, aligned with the sun, the stars, and the flow of the river. Among the rulers of this age were those remembered not for conquest, but for stability and care. Their reigns were marked by prosperity and balance. They ensured food was stored for lean years, that justice was given fairly, and that the gods were honored without excess. Their names were recorded not as distant legends, but as steady presences in the ongoing story of the land. Art flourished during this time, though it remained calm and controlled. Painters and sculptors did not chase personal style. They followed tradition, believing that beauty came from balance rather than invention. Figures were shown in clear, familiar poses, their expressions peaceful and timeless. This art was not meant to capture a single moment, but to exist beyond time, unchanged by passing years. Writing grew richer and more expressive. Scribes, trained from a young age, learned to shape words with care and precision. They recorded prayers, hymns, and wisdom meant to guide both the living and the dead. These texts were often read aloud in quiet spaces, their rhythms matching the calm pace of life itself. Writing was not a tool of noise, but of memory. Trade continued to connect Egypt to distant lands. Caravans moved slowly across the desert, while boats glided along the river, carrying goods and messages. These exchanges brought new materials and ideas, but Egypt absorbed them gently, shaping them to fit its own rhythm, rather than allowing them to disrupt balance. Foreigners who came to Egypt often remarked on its sense of order and calm. Yet even in this peaceful age, change whispered beneath the surface. The long line of rulers brought both strength and vulnerability. When leadership was steady, the land thrived. When it weakened, uncertainty quietly spread. Still, the people trusted in the return of balance. They believed that Ma'at, once disturbed, would always find its way back, just as the river always returned to its banks. As night settles over this chapter, imagine the glow of oil lamps within temple walls, their light reflecting softly off carved stone. Imagine the steady breathing of the land, the quiet confidence of a civilization at ease with itself. Ancient Egypt did not seek to dominate the world. It sought to understand it, to live in harmony with forces larger than any single life.
Time moves onward in ancient Egypt the way the river does, without hurry and without pause, carrying memory gently from one shore to the next. As the land continues to rest within its long sense of order, individual lives begin to step forward more clearly in the story. Kings and queens, once distant symbols, now feel closer, their choices and emotions softly shaping the path of the civilization they serve. Among these rulers were those who ruled for many years, allowing stability to deepen. Their presence was steady, familiar to the people, like a mountain always seen on the horizon. Under such rulers, Egypt felt safe. Fields were well cared for, temples were maintained, and the flow of tradition continued without strain. The people did not expect perfection, only consistency, and in return they offered loyalty and trust. Queens, too, held quiet power. They were not hidden figures, but visible partners in the balance of the land. Some ruled beside their husbands, offering wisdom and calm guidance. Others stepped forward on their own, their authority accepted as part of the natural order. Their images were carved with the same dignity as kings, their presence woven into temple walls and sacred texts. In a world shaped by balance, their strength did not disrupt harmony, but completed it. During this time, the bond between the ruler and the gods grew even deeper. The pharaoh was no longer seen only as a caretaker of Maat, but as a living link between worlds. Rituals became more detailed, ceremonies more refined. These acts were not displays meant to impress, but careful traditions passed down through generations. Each movement, each spoken word, was meant to keep the universe steady. Temples expanded further, becoming vast and serene spaces where light and shadow played softly across stone. Entering such a place felt like stepping out of ordinary time. The outside world faded, replaced by cool air and quiet reverence. Here, priests spoke to the gods on behalf of the people, offering thanks, asking for gentle favor, and reaffirming the bond between heaven and earth. Beyond the temples, life continued the flow with familiar rhythms. The river flooded and retreated. Seeds were planted and harvested. Families celebrated births and mourned deaths with equal calm, understanding both as parts of a larger cycle. Music filled homes during gatherings. Simple melodies played on flutes and harps, their sounds drifting softly into the night. Education grew more formal, especially for those who would become scribes or priests. Learning was slow and disciplined, focused on memory and repetition. Students copied texts again and again, not to rush forward, but to absorb wisdom deeply. Knowledge was treated with respect, as something earned through patience rather than speed. As generations passed, the memory of earlier rulers became part of everyday life. Their names were spoken in prayers, their deeds remembered in stories. Tombs and temples preserved their presence, allowing the living to feel connected to those who came before. This connection across time was comforting, reminding people that they were part of something enduring. Yet, even in this long calm, quiet challenges began to appear. Some rulers were less attentive, their focus drifting from balance to personal comfort. In these moments, Maat weakened slightly. Local leaders gained influence, acting more independently. The unity of the land, once firm, began to soften at the edges. These changes did not come suddenly or violently, they unfolded slowly, like shadows lengthening at the end of day. When uncertainty arose, the people turned inward rather than outward. They held more closely to tradition, repeated rituals with greater care, and trusted that balance would return. Their faith was not blind, but patient. They had seen change before and survived it. Time, they believed, healed all disruptions. Art and writing reflected this subtle shift. While still controlled and formal, some works began to show deeper emotion, quiet expressions of hope or concern. Hymns spoke of seeking guidance. Stories reminded listeners of the importance of justice and humility. These were not cries of fear, but gentle reminders of what truly mattered. As the power of the central ruler softened, Regional centers gained strength. Governors cared for their own lands, maintaining order locally. This decentralization brought both resilience and risk. While it allowed communities to adapt more easily, it also weakened the sense of shared identity that had held Egypt together for so long. Through it all, the river remained unchanged. It continued to flood, nourish, and retreat, indifferent to human politics. Its steady presence reassured the people, reminding them that some forces were constant, even when human structures shifted. As this chapter settles into quiet reflection, imagine a ruler standing at the edge of a temple courtyard at dusk, watching the sky turn soft shades of gold and blue. Imagine the weight of responsibility resting calmly upon them, not as a burden, but as a sacred trust. Ancient Egypt moved forward, not through sudden turns, but through gentle adjustments, guided by memory and belief. The land breathes more slowly now, as if pausing to listen to itself. Ancient Egypt enters a gentle season of uncertainty, not marked by loud collapse or sudden fear, but by small changes that ripple quietly through daily life. The river still flows, the sun still rises, and the people still wake to familiar mornings. Yet something subtle has shifted beneath the surface, like a soft change in the wind that is felt more than seen. With the central power of the pharaoh less steady than before, local regions begin to rely more on their own leaders. These governors are close to the people they serve. They know the fields, the families, and the needs of their communities. In many ways, life feels more personal now. Decisions are made nearby, justice is handled face to face, and traditions are preserved with care. Yet the shared voice of the whole land grows quieter, and Egypt feels less like a single body and more like many gentle parts moving on their own. Temples remain places of calm, but their messages begin to shift. Prayers speak more often of protection and guidance. Hymns remind listeners that balance can be restored through patience and right action. The gods are still trusted, yet people now seek reassurance as much as gratitude. Faith becomes something leaned upon gently, like a familiar wall during a moment of rest. In homes across the land, families continue their routines with steady hearts. Mothers prepare food, fathers tend fields or crafts. Children learn through watching and doing. Stories told at night carry lessons of endurance and kindness. Elders remind the young that Egypt has known hard times before, and that calm effort always carries the land forward again. These quiet conversations become the threads that hold society together. Burial practices also reflect this inward turn. Tombs grow simpler for many, focusing less on grandeur and more on personal devotion. Small offerings, carefully chosen, speak of love rather than wealth. The belief in the afterlife remains strong, but it feels closer now, more intimate. Death is not feared, it is understood as another gentle crossing, like the river moving from one bank to the other. Writing during this time becomes more thoughtful. Scribes record reflections, prayers, and wisdom meant to guide behavior during uncertain days. These texts do not demand action, they invite calm reflection. They remind readers that truth, fairness, and care for others are the foundation of lasting peace. Words become companions rather than commands. Trade slows slightly but does not stop. Goods still move along the river, and distant lands still connect with Egypt, though exchanges feel quieter, more cautious. The world beyond Egypt continues to turn, but within the Nile Valley, people focus on preservation rather than expansion. There is comfort in tending what already exists. Nature, too, seems to mirror this inward moment. Some years bring generous floods, others bring leaner seasons. Farmers adapt with patience, sharing resources and labor when needed. Community bonds grow stronger through cooperation. Hardship, when it comes, is met not with panic, but with collective care. Through these years, Egypt does not fall apart. It bends, slowly and quietly, learning how to survive change without losing itself. The core beliefs remain untouched. Maat is still honored, balance is still sought. Even when unity feels distant, the idea of it lives on in memory and hope. As night settles over this chapter, imagine small lamps glowing in scattered homes along the river, each light steady against the darkness. Imagine voices lowered and calm conversation, hands resting after a day's work, and hearts trusting that morning will come as it always has. Ancient Egypt moves forward not through force, but through endurance, carried gently by the patience of its people.
Slowly, almost without anyone noticing the exact moment, ancient Egypt begins to gather itself again. There is no sudden call, no loud return of power, only a quiet remembering. The land seems to recall its own shape, like a river finding an old path beneath the sand. People look back toward shared traditions, toward stories of unity and balance, and they do so not with longing, but with gentle confidence. Local leaders who have grown strong through care and responsibility begin to reconnect with one another. They share resources, messages, and trust. Small agreements form, then widen. The idea of a united Egypt does not arrive as a command from above, but as a natural choice made again and again by those who understand that harmony brings safety and peace. Unity feels familiar, like returning home after a long, quiet journey. From this renewed connection rises a new generation of rulers, shaped by both memory and experience. They are careful, thoughtful, and deeply aware of the fragility of balance. Power is no longer taken for granted. It is treated as something to be earned through fairness and care. These rulers listen closely to priests, scribes, and elders, valuing wisdom gathered slowly over bold action taken quickly. Temples regain their central role, not as symbols of dominance, but as places of reassurance. Rituals return to their fuller form, steady and precise. The gods are honored with gratitude rather than fear. Offerings are made not to ask for greatness, but for continuity. The people wish for seasons that follow each other gently, for families that remain whole, and for the land to breathe in peace. Art begins to change again, though the shift is subtle. Figures carved into stone appear softer, their expressions more human. There is still form and order, but also warmth. Scenes of family life, work, and quiet joy appear more often, reminding those who see them that life itself is sacred, not just power or eternity. Writing grows richer in feeling. Scribes record not only events, but reflections on responsibility and kindness. Stories speak of rulers who listen, who protect rather than command. Wisdom texts emphasize patience, humility, and the value of a calm heart. These writings are read aloud in schools and homes, their steady rhythm shaping young minds. The river continues its faithful cycle, and the people respond with renewed care. Fields are tended with attention, canals repaired, and storage rebuilt. The land feels watched over once more, not by force, but by shared effort. When floods arrive, they are welcomed. When they fall short, people adapt together. Cooperation feels natural again. Trade slowly grows stronger, bringing movement and quiet energy back to the land. Boats glide along the Nile carrying goods, stories, and news. Egypt opens itself gently to the world beyond, confident in its identity and calm in its strength. Foreign influences arrive, but they are absorbed with patience, shaped to fit Egypt's steady rhythm rather than disrupt it. As unity deepens, the pharaoh once again becomes a clear symbol of balance. This ruler does not stand apart from the people, but among them in spirit. Ceremonies reflect this closeness. The pharaoh is shown offering gifts to the gods, but also receiving guidance, reminding all that leadership is a shared responsibility between the human and the divine. Burial practices regain some of their earlier care and richness, though excess is avoided. Tombs are designed with thoughtfulness, balancing beauty and humility. The journey into the afterlife remains a central belief, but it is approached with calm trust rather than urgency. Death is accepted as part of the long, gentle story of existence. As this chapter settles, imagine the land at dawn, fields stretching quietly beside the river, temples rising in soft light, and people beginning their day with steady hearts. Egypt is not chasing its past, it is walking beside it, learning from its footsteps while moving forward with care.
With balance restored and confidence returning, ancient Egypt begins to stretch gently beyond its familiar borders. This movement is not driven by hunger for conquest, but by curiosity, connection, and the quiet need to protect what has been rebuilt. The land feels strong again, not in loud displays of power, but in its calm assurance that it knows who it is and where it stands in the world. Caravans move farther into the deserts, following paths known only to those who listen closely to the land. These journeys are slow and patient. Travelers read the stars at night and the shape of the dunes by day. They carry goods meant for exchange, not force. Stone, metals, incense, and stories travel with them, weaving Egypt more firmly into the wider human world. Each return brings new materials and new understanding, absorbed carefully into daily life. Along the river, boats glide steadily from north to south, carrying grain, linen, and crafted goods. The movement feels peaceful, like a long conversation carried by water. Ports grow busier, yet remain orderly. Voices stay low. Work is done with routine ease. Trade strengthens Egypt without unsettling its inner calm. The pharaoh, aware of the world beyond the riverbanks, takes on a new role as guardian of borders as well as balance. This guardianship is approached with restraint. When conflict arises, it is met with careful preparation rather than sudden force. Soldiers are trained not only in skill, but in discipline and patience. Even in defense, the goal is restoration, not destruction. When battles occur, they are remembered quietly. Reliefs carved into temple walls show calm order rather than chaos. Figures move with purpose, not rage. Victory is presented as a return to balance, not a moment of triumph. The tone remains measured, reminding all who see it that strength exists to protect harmony, not to disrupt it. Within Egypt, prosperity touches everyday life. Homes grow a little more comfortable, meals become slightly more varied, clothing shows careful craftsmanship. These changes arrive slowly, without excess. Comfort is appreciated, but simplicity remains valued. People understand that too much can disturb balance just as easily as too little. Religion continues to guide the heart of society. New gods and forms of worship appear, reflecting Egypt's expanding awareness of the world. These additions do not replace older beliefs. They sit beside them, woven gently into the existing spiritual fabric. Faith remains a source of reassurance, not control. Temples grow larger and more complex, their spaces unfolding like calm journeys of stone. As one walks deeper inside, the light softens and sound fades. These spaces invite reflection rather than awe. They are designed to slow the breath and quiet the mind, reminding visitors of the eternal order beyond daily concerns. Education becomes more refined. Schools for scribes expand, and learning is seen as a path of service. Students practice endlessly, copying texts with care, learning not only how to write, but how to think with balance and respect. Knowledge is treated as a responsibility, not a tool for personal gain. Art reflects this mature confidence. Carvings show scenes of peaceful labor, family closeness, and ritual care. Faces appear calm, almost timeless. There is little urgency in these images. They are meant to be looked at slowly, allowing meaning to unfold without effort. As Egypt's influence grows, so does its sense of time. History is something that can be looked back upon with clarity. Kings record their reigns not to boast, but to place themselves within a longer story. They know they are part of a chain that stretches far behind them and will continue long after they are gone. As this chapter drifts toward rest, imagine the river at sunset, boats returning home, fields glowing softly, and distant temples catching the last light of day. Egypt stands open to the world, yet firmly rooted in itself, speaking in a calm voice shaped by centuries of patience.
As the world around Egypt grows wider, the heart of the land turns once more towards stone, memory, and permanence. This is an age shaped by builders, planners, and quiet dreamers who believe that what is made with care can outlast the passing of generations. There is no rush in their work. Each block of stone, each carved symbol is placed with patience, as if time itself has agreed to wait. Great temples rise along the river, their foundations set deep into the earth, their walls aligned with the slow movements of the sun. These structures are not meant to surprise or overwhelm, they are meant to reassure. Walking beside them, one feels a sense of calm order, as if the stone itself understands the rhythm of the world. Light moves gently across carved surfaces, bringing stories to life in a quiet, steady way. These temples are not empty monuments, they are living spaces, cared for daily by priests, workers, and artisans. Floors are swept, offerings prepared, and rituals performed with careful attention. The repetition of these acts brings comfort. Nothing is left to chance. Every day mirrors the one before it, creating a sense of timeless stability that settles deeply into the mind. The pharaoh during this age is remembered as a builder not only of stone, but of trust. His presence is felt across the land, yet rarely in loud command. He appears in carvings, making offerings, listening to the gods, and standing calmly among his people. His strength lies in continuity rather than force. Through his long reign, the land feels watched over, gently guided rather than controlled. Artisans thrive under this steady rule. Stone carvers, painters, and metalworkers refine their skills over many years, learning the quiet language of their materials. Hands grow steady, eyes grow patient. Art becomes a form of meditation, each movement focused and deliberate. The finished works do not seek attention, they simply exist, balanced and complete. Writing continues to deepen in purpose. Sacred texts grow longer and more reflective, guiding the soul through life and beyond. These words are read aloud in soft voices, often at dawn or dusk, when the world feels most open and still. Language itself becomes a bridge between thought and eternity, carrying meaning gently forward. Life along the river remains steady and full. Farmers continue their work, supported by careful planning and shared effort. Food is stored, canals maintained, and tools repaired with care. The people trust that tomorrow will resemble today, and this trust allows them to live without fear. Stability becomes a gift passed quietly from one generation to the next.
The afterlife remains a central presence, not as a distant mystery, but as a familiar companion to daily life. Tombs are prepared thoughtfully, filled with objects chosen for comfort rather than display. Walls are painted with scenes of peaceful labor and family gatherings, reminding the soul of the life it has known and loved. Death feels like a gentle pause rather than an ending. As years pass, these monuments begin to shape memory itself. Children grow up seeing temples and statues that were already old when their grandparents were young. This sense of deep time creates humility. People understand that they are temporary, yet connected to something enduring. This understanding brings peace rather than sorrow. The land remains calm, but beyond its borders, the world continues to shift. Egypt is aware of this movement, yet does not rush to respond. It watches, listens, and waits. Confidence rooted in tradition allows patience to guide every decision. As this chapter settles into quiet reflection, imagine walking slowly through a temple corridor, your footsteps soft against cool stone, carvings watching in calm silence. Imagine the sense of being held within something larger than any single life. This is the gift of Egypt's great builders, not the size of what they made, but the stillness they left behind.
Time continues its patient work, touching even the most carefully placed stone. In ancient Egypt, change does not arrive as a sudden break, but as a slow softening, barely noticed at first. The temples still stand, the rituals still unfold, and the river still keeps its steady rhythm. Yet beneath this familiar surface, the world begins to feel slightly different, as if listening more closely to distant sounds. New generations rise who have only known stability. For them, the great monuments are not marvels, but part of the natural landscape. They grow up in the shadow of temples that seem eternal, and this familiarity brings both comfort and quiet challenge. When permanence feels guaranteed, attention can drift. Care becomes routine rather than devotion. Balance remains, but it must now be actively remembered. Rulers during this time inherit a powerful legacy. They are surrounded by symbols of greatness that cannot easily be surpassed. Some respond with humility, seeking only to preserve what exists. Others feel the gentle weight of expectation and search for ways to leave their own mark. These efforts are often thoughtful, but occasionally restless, nudging the land towards subtle change. Religion, once steady and unified, begins to show small variations. Local forms of worship grow stronger, shaped by regional needs and traditions. The core beliefs remain intact, but they are expressed in slightly different ways across the land. This diversity brings richness, yet also softens the shared center that once held everything tightly together. Priests continue their work with dedication, though their influence begins to shift. Some temples grow wealthy and powerful, their leaders holding quiet authority alongside the pharaoh. This balance between spiritual and royal power remains peaceful for now, but it requires careful attention. When harmony is maintained, both sides support the land. When it weakens, uncertainty gently appears. Daily life remains calm and familiar. Fields are planted, homes cared for, and families gather as they always have. Yet conversations begin to include questions about the future. Not spoken loudly, not framed as worry, but as quiet wondering. Will the river always come as it has? Will the land remain protected? These thoughts pass through the mind like passing clouds, noticed but not held. Writing reflects this subtle shift. Texts speak more often of reflection and self-awareness. Wisdom literature encourages honesty, restraint, and remembrance of shared values. There is a gentle call to return to simplicity, to honor the old ways without clinging to them blindly. These words are not warnings, but invitations. Art remains beautiful, though its tone softens. Figures appear more relaxed, scenes more personal.
Artists show moments of rest, conversation, and stillness. The grand scale of earlier works gives way to intimacy, reminding viewers that life's meaning is found not only in monuments, but in quiet human connection. Beyond Egypt's borders, the world continues to change. New powers rise and shift, trade routes alter, foreign influences brush against Egypt more often now, sometimes gently, sometimes with insistence. Egypt responds carefully, drawing what it needs while guarding its inner balance. As resources flow and attention divides, maintaining unity becomes a delicate task. The pharaoh must balance tradition with adaptation, honoring the past while responding to the present. Some succeed with grace, others struggle quietly. These struggles do not break the land, but they leave faint marks that time will later deepen. As this chapter settles into evening, imagine the sun lowering behind temple walls, shadows growing longer across courtyards once filled with morning light. Imagine priests finishing their rituals, workers resting their hands, and families sharing quiet meals. Egypt remains strong yet aware, standing at a gentle turning point shaped not by fear but by awareness. The quiet flow of time continues, and ancient Egypt, ever patient, feels the first soft stirrings of transformation. It is not sudden or violent, but gentle, like the slow shifting of sand in the desert, almost imperceptible if one is not paying close attention. The river continues to bring life, the temples continue to watch over the land, and the rhythm of daily life remains steady. Yet subtle changes are emerging, carried on the whispers of ideas, the movements of new leaders, and the curiosity of a growing population. Some rulers begin to imagine possibilities beyond preservation. They do not seek chaos or conquest, but they feel the pull of progress, the desire to leave a personal mark upon history. Their vision is careful, considered, shaped by the lessons of previous generations. They plan new temples, expand old ones, and occasionally experiment with art and architecture in small, deliberate ways. These additions blend into the existing landscape as naturally as morning light filling a temple corridor. Religion, too, experiences a quiet evolution. The old gods are still honored, yet their stories take on deeper layers, accommodating new experiences and reflections. Priests continue their daily rituals with steady devotion, but their chants now carry a gentle curiosity, a soft wondering about the nature of balance and the flow of time. These whispers of thought, though subtle, shape the spiritual life of the land, adding a new dimension to belief that is thoughtful rather than rigid. Daily life of ordinary people remains centered on the river, the fields, and family. Farmers rise with the sun, planting and tending crops with careful hands. Craftsmen shape clay, wood, and metal, their movements slow and deliberate. Families gather to share meals, stories, and quiet comfort. Children learn patience through observation, understanding that life is best approached as a steady, deliberate journey. Every task, no matter how small, carries meaning. Art during this age mirrors the evolving society. Figures and scenes retain their calm dignity, yet subtle expression begins to appear in gestures, eyes, and posture. Moments of personal reflection, quiet companionship, and gentle labor are captured alongside grand ceremonial depictions. Artists move with care, aware that their work will endure, and in doing so, they create images that carry both tradition and the hint of evolving human emotion. Writing, as always, serves as both guide and memory. Scribes carefully copy existing texts while also composing reflections on leadership, morality, and human connection. Wisdom literature encourages thoughtful behavior, advising patience, honesty, and respect for others. Letters and records show a delicate awareness that actions ripple across time, subtly shaping the lives of those yet to come. Trade continues along the river and through desert routes, bringing materials, stories, and ideas from distant lands. Egypt absorbs these carefully, enriching its own culture without losing its calm identity. The exchange is measured, like the slow blending of colors in a dawn sky, gentle and balanced. Foreigners visiting the land note the composure and quiet order that seem to flow through every street, temple, and home. Yet change, even gentle, requires adaptation. Some local leaders struggle to maintain authority while others grow in influence. Disputes are rare, handled quietly and carefully. The pharaoh's role remains central, yet now often involves negotiation and subtle guidance rather than commanding obedience. Balance is maintained not through fear, but through careful attentiveness and steady wisdom. Even in moments that might appear as struggle, Egypt moves without haste or alarm. Floods occasionally fail or overreach. Harvests vary in yield. Resources must be managed. Yet these challenges are approached with patience and cooperation. The people have learned to trust in the rhythm of their land and in the enduring patterns that shape their lives. As night falls, imagine the river reflecting a soft silver light, the wind moving slowly across fields, and the temples bathed in gentle shadows. Picture priests concluding their rituals with measured voices, families resting after the day, and children dreaming quietly. Egypt remains strong and observant, aware that time carries both opportunity and responsibility, and that careful action preserves the calm flow of life. As the land of Egypt continues to breathe through the slow passage of years, a new chapter of quiet greatness begins to emerge. This period is marked not by loud conquests or violent upheaval, but by the careful cultivation of wisdom, creativity, and enduring legacy. The river still flows steadily, bringing life and nourishment, and the people move along its banks in calm harmony, guided by lessons from the past and the quiet certainty that their civilization is resilient. Rulers of this age are remembered for their thoughtful stewardship. They understand that true strength lies not in fear or sudden action, but in careful attention to balance and order. Their daily life involves both practical governance and deep reflection. They listen to advisors, consult the priests, and observe the rhythms of the land with patience. Even when decisions must be made, they move slowly, weighing consequences in a measured way, ensuring that every action preserves Maat, the harmony that sustains Egypt. Temples continue to rise in gentle grandeur. Their stones are carved with more than ritual and legend. They now also carry human experience in subtle form. Scenes depict not only gods and kings, but artisans, families, and children at work and play. Each carving is deliberate, every figure placed with intention. Light and shadow dance softly across the walls, creating a sense of motion that is peaceful rather than hurried. Walking through such a temple, one feels a connection to both the divine and the human, a sense that life itself is woven into the eternal. The priests' lives remain disciplined, yet their roles quietly expand. They not only perform daily rituals, but also act as guides, helping rulers and citizens navigate change with patience. They teach that understanding the rhythms of life, river, seasons, and stars, is as important as honoring the gods. Education spreads subtly beyond scribes and officials, reaching those who seek wisdom in small, meaningful ways. People learn not only practical skills, but also reflection, memory, and respect for the enduring patterns of existence. Art and writing evolve together in a soft, deliberate rhythm. Scribes record events with clarity, yet they also reflect on human emotion, leadership, and the lessons of past generations. Stories and hymns emphasize patience, empathy, and responsibility. Paintings and sculptures show individuals in quiet acts, preparing offerings, tending animals, or resting in the shade, reminding all who see them that calm attention to life is itself sacred. Trade and interaction with distant lands continue, but always with careful discernment. Egypt absorbs materials, ideas, and techniques at a pace that maintains its inner stability. Craftsmen incorporate these influences thoughtfully, producing objects that are both beautiful and enduring. Visitors and traders remark on the composure of Egyptian society, noting that even in the presence of wealth and opportunity, life moves deliberately and respectfully. Even in moments of potential challenge, the people maintain a steady demeanor. Periodic shortages or disputes are met with cooperation rather than panic. Communities work together to repair canals, store grain, and support one another. Confidence comes not from domination, but from shared effort and a deep trust in the enduring patterns of nature and society. The pharaohs of this age increasingly focus on their legacies not as monuments of power, but as carefully crafted stories of wisdom, service, and care. They commission temples, inscriptions, and tombs that are intended to outlast their reigns, but not as symbols of dominance. Instead, these works are reminders that continuity, thoughtfulness, and quiet guidance matter most. Their leadership is a slow, steady current that shapes the river of time rather than forcing it. Life for ordinary people flows with the same patient rhythm. Families rise with the sun, work the land or craft objects, and gather together in the cool of evening. Children learn by watching, absorbing lessons about patience, respect, and cooperation. Even daily routines, preparing food, weaving linen, shaping clay, are infused with care and meaning. Every gesture contributes to the larger pattern of balance and harmony. As this chapter drifts to a close, imagine the Nile at twilight, its waters smooth and reflective. Imagine soft sounds of daily life fading into evening calm, distant laughter, the rustle of reeds, the low hum of prayers in temples. Ancient Egypt, though quietly changing, remains strong, deliberate, and serene, its people guided by the enduring rhythms of the land, the river, and the heart. Ancient Egypt, steady and patient, now enters a period of remarkable growth and quiet brilliance. The land hums with the rhythm of deliberate creation, where every effort is guided by care and intention. The river flows as it always has, nurturing crops and communities, and the people continue their routines with gentle precision, knowing that continuity, thoughtfulness, and calm attention are the true markers of strength. This era is distinguished by monumental architecture, where stone meets imagination in ways that feel timeless yet deeply human. Temples expand to accommodate both worship and reflection. Their walls are carved with scenes of serene devotion, quiet labor, and gentle celebration. Columns rise with measured grace, and the alignment of each structure reflects careful observation of the sun, stars, and seasons. Walking through these spaces is like moving through a carefully composed meditation, each step a reminder of the harmony between earth, sky, and spirit. Pharaohs of this age rule with a steady hand and reflective heart. Their power is neither sudden nor aggressive. They act as guardians of Ma'at, ensuring that balance flows through every level of society. They consult priests, scribes, and regional leaders, listening to advice with humility and weighing decisions with patience. Even when action is necessary, it is executed with thoughtfulness, maintaining the calm and order that defines the land. Priests and scribes expand their influence in subtle ways, guiding communities through ritual, education, and counsel. Temples become centers of learning as well as devotion. Children and young adults are taught the rhythms of the Nile, the meaning of celestial movements, and the importance of memory and reflection. Writing evolves, recording not only facts but also philosophical reflections, hymns, and moral guidance. Knowledge is cherished as a slow and careful accumulation rather than a rush to achievement. Art flourishes alongside architecture and writing. Reliefs and sculptures capture the quiet dignity of human life. Farmers tending fields, families gathering for meals, craftsmen shaping objects with skilled hands. The gods are still present, but now their presence is woven naturally into everyday life, appearing beside human figures in calm, measured harmony. Color and line are used with restraint, emphasizing balance over spectacle. Each piece communicates not urgency, but understanding, reminding viewers that patience and care are virtues that endure across generations. Trade continues along the river and beyond, expanding Egypt's horizons while maintaining inner steadiness. Caravans move slowly across the desert, and boats glide gently down the Nile, carrying grain, linen, and crafted goods. Foreign influences are observed, adapted, and integrated thoughtfully, enriching culture without overwhelming tradition. The people remain confident in their identity, blending curiosity with restraint. Daily life remains steady and meaningful. Families rise with the sun, tending to fields, animals, and homes. Meals are shared in calm company. Stories are told at dusk, carrying lessons about patience, wisdom, and the continuity of life. Children grow up observing the deliberate rhythms of work and devotion, internalizing the patterns that ensure both survival and serenity. Every small act, from planting seeds to shaping clay, becomes a meditation in patience and care. Even moments of challenge are approached with composure. Variations in the Nile's flooding, temporary shortages, or regional disputes are met not with panic, but with cooperation and measured action. Communities rely on shared knowledge, accumulated wisdom, and collective responsibility to navigate these gentle trials. In this way, the civilization grows stronger, not through force, but through careful attention and resilience. The pharaohs of this era leave a legacy that extends beyond stone. Their influence is felt in the calm order of society, in the refinement of ritual, and in the steady accumulation of knowledge and wisdom. Their leadership is a quiet force, shaping the land through example, guidance, and patience, rather than through fear or violence. As night falls, imagine the Nile reflecting the last light of the sun, boats returning slowly, temples bathed in a soft glow, and families settling into the comfort of evening. Egypt stands in confident calm, a civilization built not on haste, but on the enduring rhythm of life, devotion, and thoughtfulness. As the sun rises over the Nile, casting a gentle glow across the land, Egypt enters a period of quiet experimentation and careful expansion. This era is not defined by sudden ambition, but by the soft stretching of ideas, the slow refinement of artistry, and the patient development of governance. Every action is measured, as though the people themselves have learned to move with the rhythm of the river, allowing life to unfold at its own pace. The pharaohs of this age are mindful rulers, aware of the delicate balance between tradition and innovation. They maintain the rituals and customs that have long kept the land in harmony, yet they also encourage subtle changes that reflect the evolving needs of their people. New temples are built, Older ones are expanded, and the layout of cities is adjusted with careful planning. Each decision is thoughtful, intended to sustain the order and continuity that define Egypt. Priests continue to guide spiritual and social life, their presence a calming force in an age of gentle transformation. They oversee daily rituals and advise rulers with measured insight. In temples, chants and prayers are offered with a rhythm that soothes both the mind and the spirit. Young scribes are trained not only in writing, but in contemplation and patience. Education becomes a quiet form of meditation, emphasizing reflection, memory, and careful observation of the world. Art and architecture reach new heights, expressing creativity within the boundaries of calm order. Reliefs depict scenes of daily life with subtle emotional depth, farmers walking along the riverbank, children playing under the shade of palms, artisans concentrating on their work. Even depictions of gods are softer, more approachable, yet still dignified and commanding respect. Stone, wood, and paint are treated with care, each material chosen for its ability to convey harmony and enduring beauty. Trade and cultural exchange extend Egypt's awareness of the wider world. Caravans cross the desert bringing spices, metals, and exotic goods, while boats travel the Nile carrying grain, crafted objects, and knowledge. Egypt receives these offerings with thoughtfulness, incorporating what benefits the land while preserving its inner calm. Interaction with distant lands strengthens society without disturbing its deliberate pace. The daily rhythm of life remains steady and meaningful. Families rise with the sun, tending to their fields, homes, and animals. Meals are shared with conversation that is gentle and reflective. Children observe the patience and care of adults, learning that even small, repetitive tasks contribute to the stability and prosperity of the community. Work is treated as an act of devotion, as meaningful as prayer or study. Even the challenges of this period are handled with measured effort. The Nile's flood sometimes rises higher or falls short, and harvests vary in yield. Regional disputes arise quietly, addressed through counsel and negotiation rather than violence. Communities work together, guided by the enduring principles of Ma'at, to restore balance and harmony. Every response is calm, deliberate, and focused on long-term stability rather than immediate gratification. Writing, as always, is a vessel for both record and reflection. Scribes continue to copy sacred texts while also creating thoughtful commentaries on leadership, morality, and daily life. Their words remind rulers and citizens alike that patience, respect, and careful observation are the keys to maintaining harmony. Knowledge is shared slowly but deeply, ensuring that wisdom endures across generations. As this chapter draws to a close, imagine the Nile at dusk, its waters reflecting the fading sun, boats moving slowly back to port, and temples glowing softly in the evening light. Families gather in the quiet of their homes. Priests conclude their prayers with calm voices, and artisans rest after the day's work. Egypt, though subtly changing, remains serene and confident, guided by centuries of patient wisdom.
In this era, ancient Egypt begins to leave an even more deliberate mark upon the world, guided by a steady hand and a thoughtful mind. It is a time of expansive construction and intellectual flourish, yet everything is approached with calm intention. The river continues its patient journey, nourishing the land and carrying the quiet pulse of life through cities, villages, and fields. People continue their work with care,
mindful that their actions contribute to the enduring story of their civilization. The pharaohs of this period are deeply aware of the responsibility their position carries. They do not seek fame or sudden recognition, but they wish to guide Egypt with measured vision, preserving tradition while embracing subtle innovation. New temples, tombs, and monuments are constructed with careful planning. Their design reflects not only religious devotion, but also practical function and aesthetic harmony. Each stone is placed with intention, each corridor aligned to catch light in a specific way, revealing a quiet understanding of both the physical and spiritual world. Priests, scribes, and scholars hold a central place in society, their roles expanding to include the teaching of ethics, the recording of history, and the guidance of young minds. Temples serve as places of calm learning as well as devotion. Students are trained in careful observation, slow reasoning, and thoughtful expression. Knowledge is not pursued hastily, but accumulated with patience, ensuring that wisdom is not only learned, but deeply understood. Art becomes a mirror of life, expressing subtlety and dignity. Scenes depict families, farmers, craftsmen, and ritual practices, each captured with calm precision. Gods are present in these works, yet they appear approachable, integrated into everyday life rather than distant figures of awe. The color and form used by artisans are gentle and balanced, inviting contemplation rather than distraction. Every creation is a meditation, a reminder that harmony can be seen and felt in the quiet details of existence. Trade and exchange continue to strengthen the land, bringing materials, ideas, and connections from far-off regions. Caravans traverse desert paths slowly, while boats glide down the Nile with goods and knowledge. Egypt absorbs what is useful, adapting foreign influence to fit its calm and deliberate way of life. Interaction with other lands enriches culture while maintaining the inner rhythm that has sustained the civilization for generations. Daily life is marked by steady routines that balance work, devotion, and reflection. Families rise with the sun, tend to fields, care for animals, and gather in the evenings to share meals and stories. Children learn by observing, understanding that patience, attention, and cooperation are as essential as skill or strength. Every task, from tending grain to crafting goods, is an act of care, contributing to the well-being of the community and the land itself. Even challenges are met with composure. Floods, shortages, and minor disputes occur, yet they are handled through collective effort and careful planning rather than panic or force. Regional leaders coordinate with the central authority, guided by the principles of Ma'at, ensuring that balance is restored. This gentle resilience strengthens both the people and their culture, allowing society to endure quietly through the centuries. Writing and record-keeping continue to play an important role, not only preserving history, but also reflecting on human behavior, leadership, and ethics. Scribes compose texts that emphasize reflection, honesty, and the long-term impact of one's actions. Wisdom literature flourishes, reminding rulers and citizens alike that thoughtful decisions, careful observation, and respect for life are the keys to lasting harmony. As night falls over Egypt, imagine the sun dipping behind temples and pyramids, the river reflecting soft light, and families settling into the quiet of their homes. Artisans rest after a day of careful creation, priests conclude their evening prayers, and the air is filled with the gentle rhythms of a civilization that has learned the art of patience. Egypt stands as a calm and enduring presence, its strength derived not from haste or force, but from centuries of careful attention, reflection, and balance.
As the days continue to pass over the banks of the Nile,
ancient Egypt enters a period of quiet grandeur, where the creativity of its people flows as steadily as the river itself. This is an age of synthesis, where knowledge, art, and governance converge to create monuments, writings, and traditions that are meant to endure for centuries. Life moves with a calm, deliberate rhythm, and even the smallest actions are infused with purpose and reflection. The pharaohs of this era are thoughtful visionaries, aware that their choices will ripple far into the future. They maintain rituals and ceremonies with care, honoring the gods and ensuring that the balance of Ma'at continues to guide every aspect of society. At the same time, they encourage artisans, scribes, and architects to innovate gently, creating structures, inscriptions, and artworks that expand upon tradition without disturbing the harmony that has long defined Egypt. Leadership is measured, deliberate, and compassionate, a quiet guiding force rather than a demand for obedience. Temples continue to rise, not as symbols of dominance, but as spaces for contemplation, education, and community. Their walls are adorned with carvings and paintings that depict everyday life alongside the divine, blending human experience with spiritual presence. Light moves softly through corridors and chambers, highlighting figures and scenes with gentle rhythm. Walking through these spaces, one feels the sense of being part of something enduring, a connection to both the past and the future. Priests and scribes take on roles that extend beyond ritual. They teach, record, and reflect, ensuring that wisdom is carefully preserved and shared. Young students are trained in observation, patience, and reflection, learning that understanding comes slowly and must be nurtured over time. Texts are copied with care, and new writings emphasize ethical conduct, the importance of harmony, and the subtle interplay between human action and natural order. Knowledge is cultivated with deliberate calm, a precious inheritance for generations to come. Art in this period is refined and expressive, capturing the quiet dignity of daily life. Reliefs depict farmers tending crops, families gathering under the sun, artisans at work, and ritual practices conducted with deliberate care. Gods appear not as distant or intimidating, but integrated into the everyday world, symbols of guidance and continuity. Colors are chosen thoughtfully, forms are balanced, and compositions are designed to invite reflection rather than to impress or startle. Trade and communication with foreign lands expand slowly and intentionally. Caravans cross deserts, carrying spices, metals, and textiles, while Nile boats glide steadily with grain, crafted goods, and knowledge. Egypt receives these influences with patience, incorporating what is useful while preserving the calm rhythm of life. Even interactions with distant peoples are guided with caution and respect, ensuring that growth and connection do not disturb internal balance. Daily life of ordinary Egyptians remains grounded in routine and quiet reflection. Families wake with the sun, care for their homes, work the fields, and gather in the evenings for shared meals and conversation. Children grow up observing patience and cooperation, learning that thoughtful effort, attention to detail, and respect for others are more valuable than haste or force. Work, devotion, and study are seen as interconnected, each supporting the ongoing flow of community and culture. Challenges continue to arise, floods, shortages, or regional disputes, but they are met with measured response. Communities collaborate to solve problems, guided by the enduring principles of Ma'at. Leadership is exercised with humility, and collective action restores balance without disruption. This steady resilience strengthens both individuals and the civilization as a whole, allowing Egypt to endure quietly through changing times. Writing and record-keeping deepen in sophistication. Scribes compose not only historical accounts, but reflections on morality, leadership, and the interconnectedness of life. Wisdom literature flourishes, emphasizing patience, self-awareness, and the gentle guidance of others. These writings serve as both instruction and meditation, reminding readers that careful observation and thoughtful action are the foundations of harmony and prosperity. As night descends, imagine the Nile reflecting the last glow of sunlight, temples and monuments bathed in soft shadow, and families resting peacefully in their homes. Artisans lay down their tools, priests complete their rituals, and the land is enveloped in calm. Egypt, though evolving, remains serene, its strength found not in haste or violence, but in the enduring rhythm of life, devotion, and thoughtful creation. Time flows steadily over ancient Egypt, carrying with it the lessons of centuries, the quiet strength of enduring traditions, and the gentle presence of countless lives lived in careful harmony. This is a period where the land reflects upon itself, where the monuments, temples, and writings created over generations stand as witnesses to patience, thoughtfulness, and enduring order. The river continues its unhurried journey, and the people continue their work with calm diligence, moving through life in a rhythm as natural and reliable as the sunrise. Pharaohs of this era are mindful custodians, aware of the legacy they inherit and the future they shape. They govern not through force, but through quiet example, deliberate decisions, and respect for the principles that sustain the land. Their presence is a steadying force, a reminder that leadership is about balance, responsibility, and the careful guidance of both people and resources. Each action, whether building a temple, revising a law, or guiding a ceremony, is infused with thoughtfulness and a deep understanding of consequence. Temples continue to be places of reflection, learning, and devotion. Their walls tell stories not only of gods and kings, but of farmers, artisans, families, and the small, meaningful acts that give life structure and harmony. Light moves slowly through corridors, illuminating carvings in a gentle, meditative rhythm. The very stones seem to breathe, reminding all who enter that Egypt is more than monuments. It is a living civilization shaped by care, attention, and continuity. Priests, scribes, and scholars maintain their crucial role as the keepers of knowledge, wisdom, and spiritual guidance. They teach, record, and preserve the past while also reflecting on the present, ensuring that the lessons of history remain accessible. Education emphasizes observation, patience, and reflection. Young scribes learn that knowledge is to be nurtured slowly, and that understanding flows most fully when approached without rush. Art and craftsmanship reach refined maturity, expressing the quiet dignity of everyday life alongside ceremonial grandeur. Scenes of people engaged in routine tasks, families gathered in repose, and workers shaping materials are depicted with balance and serenity. Even depictions of gods are integrated into this calm, everyday rhythm, symbolizing guidance and protection rather than fear or awe. Every work is created to endure, to carry meaning gently across generations, and to reflect the interconnectedness of life, community, and the divine. Trade and communication extend steadily beyond Egypt, with caravans and riverboats carrying goods, ideas, and knowledge. These interactions are approached with care, ensuring that external influences enhance rather than disrupt the inner rhythm of society. Egypt remains open to the world while preserving its identity, absorbing what is beneficial and integrating it thoughtfully into its culture and economy. Daily life continues in a gentle, reliable pattern. Families rise with the sun, tending fields and animals, creating crafts, and gathering in the evening for shared meals and stories. Children grow up absorbing lessons of patience, attentiveness, and cooperation. Every gesture, no matter how small, is recognized as part of a larger pattern of life, connecting each individual to the enduring flow of the civilization. Challenges still arise, floods, shortages, or minor disputes, but they are met with calm coordination and collective care. Communities respond together, guided by the principles of Ma'at. Leadership, education, and cooperation ensure that balance is restored quietly and efficiently. These gentle resolutions reinforce the strength and resilience of society, sustaining the land through centuries of experience and accumulated wisdom. Writing and record-keeping deepen in purpose and subtlety. Scribes compose reflections on morality, leadership, and the flow of life, reminding readers that deliberate, thoughtful action is the key to enduring harmony. These texts are not rushed, nor are they intended to impress. They serve as quiet companions, guiding rulers and citizens alike toward patience, reflection, and respect for the cycles of nature and society. As night settles over Egypt, imagine the river glimmering under the soft light of stars, temples glowing in peaceful shadow, and families resting in homes filled with gentle warmth. Artisans lay down their tools, priests complete their final prayers, and the land is embraced by calm and continuity. The civilization stands resilient, not through force or haste, but through centuries of deliberate care, thoughtful leadership, and steady devotion.